I don't think they need to go out to do it. I just think it's in your nature, or it isn't in your nature. You know, it's like it's kind of. I don't want to see the same old thing.
Right.
And I think there's a ton of people out there that don't want to see the same old thing. It's very strange because I've been sharing things that, you know, lately about what I believe and stuff that are really kind of, maybe a few years ago might have been like, okay, Jim, yeah, we'll, yeah, maybe we'll join you on that planet someday. But
Yeah, we'll call you sometime.
we'll send a probe and check out the atmosphere, see if it's livable. I'm finding that people are all kind of for the most part, accepting of another kind of way of looking at things or letting go of character. You know, there's this kind of weird thing, like I went on a Broadway stage with Michael Moore last week, and I did a lot of comedy and I did political stuff, and that was all great. And then I just kind of slowed down and started talking about the river of tears that we all have to face, and eventually, and that we're all avoiding, and how at the other side there's, you know, that your body can survive it, but you can't, and and you're better off without a you or an I. And I got into that pretty heavily, and they were looking at me like, oh, this isn't what he's supposed to say.
Right.
You know, it was more like, you're supposed to say, you know, we're important. You're supposed to say it's all going to be all right, and you're supposed to say that, you know, whatever you dream can come true, and you're supposed to say all those things. I do believe in manifestation, power of that kind of stuff, but I don't believe that any of it matters. You know, this mattering is to me a human construct, born out of a need. The same need as you have to have, you know, deities and things like that. And I believe in an energy of God, an energy of, you know, everything is divine. You know, there's no thing that isn't divine. Everything is divine, and I'm that. I'm not the body. I'm you guys, and I'm this thing, and I'm this thing, and I'm the cameras, and it doesn't matter to me what's happening on them. Sometimes I still have the groove cut in me that, you know, wants my hair to look nice.
Right.
It's an ancient thing.
Yeah.
You know, there's still ego there, but I don't. I'm finding that ultimately the freedom from it is something people are kind of hungry for in a way. They're like, I don't want to be me either.
Right.
You know, I believe that I had to become a famous, you know, idea.
Yeah.
And get all the stuff that people dream about, and accomplish a bunch of things that you know, that look like success, in order to give up my attachment to those things. It's been a part of the evolution of ego is to spend your first half of your life acquiring and adding, thinking you can add to yourself, and it looks great. I mean, it looks great when you got a cool car and you got nice clothes, and you know, and you've done something that people admire, you know. But it can never fulfill you. You can never be happy. You know what I mean? It's not where happiness comes from. And you know, I dealt with depression, you know, a few years ago, and people still think, well, he's going through. You can tell he's depressed, and it's not. I have no depression in my life whatsoever. Literally none. I have sadness and joy and elation and satisfaction and gratitude beyond belief, but all of it is weather, and it just spins around the planet. You know, it's not. It doesn't sit on me long enough to kill me. The happy place is realizing that you're everything, you know, and that there's no real you involved in the first place. You know, it's a weird little semantic jump that you make, where it sounds like, well, that's totally threatening, man. I can't not be me. I've built this construct.
Yeah.
You know, from the time I was given a name, and then I'm a Celt. My mother's, you know, was great grandmother was raped by a Viking, and that's what makes me strong, you know, or whatever it is. And
it's just ideas. They're
Right.
just ideas. You know, the only thing that separates you from an African American or an African Canadian is an idea. You know, and the weather.
Right.
You know, and the adaptation to the climate, and whatever it is, I don't believe in any of it, and so the feeling of wholeness is a different feeling than meanness. Well, it's crazy because you see, you know, I mean, throughout time, like Andy, like Lenny Bruce, like breakthrough people, artists and whatever, refuse to wear the mask.
Although Andy was putting masks on, in temperament and in his approach, he wasn't wearing a mask. He was going right for whatever you thought was precious.
Right.
And those types of people make it really hard for people to wear their masks, you know? So those who wish to masquerade for the rest of this virtual game sometimes are made really uncomfortable by it. You know, they're like, it really looks like a mask beside somebody who's not wearing a mask. Yeah.
You know, I don't really look for things. And it's the same with painting and sculpting and whatever. I'll just start, and it happens that later on, my subconscious mind told me something, just like the scripts tell me something about where I was at, you know, and so they find me. You know, and that's why I disappear for long periods of time, because people go, "Well, what the hell, man? You're supposed to make 2.5 movies a year."
Yeah.
And I go, "But that's playing to a demographic, and I don't want to do that ever." And plus, when you go away a little bit, sometimes you learn a new stroke. You know, it's like you lop your right arm off to learn how to write with your left, and then you sew the right arm back on when you've learned, and then you go, "Hey, check it out." You know, and then you can come back. Still, you can do the old stuff, but the new stuff is there too.
Yeah.
You know, I don't exist, so they're all characters that I've played, including Jim Carrey, including Joel Barish, including any of those things. They're all characters. You know, Jim Carrey was a less intentional character,
Right.
because I thought I was just building something that people would like, but it was a character. You know, so it's you know, I played the guy that was free from concern so that people who watched me would be free from concern, you know, and then at a certain point you go like, okay, well, that's great, but you know, it's like the one thing, like people talk about depression all the time, the difference between depression and sadness is just, you know, from happenstance, whatever happened or didn't happen for you, or, you know, grief or whatever it is, and depression is your body saying, I don't want to be this character anymore. I don't want to hold up this avatar that you've created in the world. It's too much for me. Pressed as deep rest. Deep rest. Your body needs to be depressed. It needs deep rest from the character that you've been trying to play.
Right.
You know, the great and powerful Oz. And you're just the sweaty guy behind the curtain going, it's an amazing metaphor, you know,